Unlike an overt narcissist who is intense and openly dominant during intimacy, a covert narcissist can be sensual, soft, kind, patient, and intentional throughout the experience. They create an environment where it feels like your desires and deep needs are genuinely being cherished. But beneath that tenderness is an evil agenda which I am going to expose today. You see, sex with a covert narcissist is not about genuine intimacy or connection. It is about subtle control. Covert narcissists use sex as one of their most hidden and powerful tools to manipulate, confuse, and dominate. Every moment of intimacy with them is designed to create emotional dependency and to erode your self-worth over time. What feels like connection is in reality calculated manipulation, and that is designed to keep you hooked to them and in a totally vulnerable state. Let's talk about this further in today's episode. I am Danish, a narcissistic abuse recovery professional. The topic is 5 signs you are having sex with a covert narcissist. Please consider subscribing to my channel before we get started because your subscription helps in spreading awareness about narcissistic abuse. Number 1, they carefully craft an illusion of deep connection. In the beginning, a covert narcissist makes sex feel magical. They are attentive, passionate, and deeply focused on you, aren't they? It feels like a rare, once-in-a-lifetime connection because they mirror your desires, remember your preferences, and make you feel seen in a way that almost feels sacred. But what seems like genuine connection is actually predatory manipulation. They study you closely, not to understand you, but to gain control over you. They use sex to create a bond that feels special and irreplaceable. They will say things like, "I have never felt this way with anyone," or "We have such an intense connection, don't we?" And you will believe it because their attention feels so complete. It's intoxicating. You are hooked, but you do not realize that it's a trap. With an overt narcissist, sex is often hot, steamy, and intense. It feels like a rush, an adrenaline-filled experience designed to overwhelm and dominate. But with a covert narcissist, it's very different. Sex is sensual, slow, and soulful. There is no pressure. They show patience, listen to your desires, and respect your needs, as I said. They make it feel like they are cherishing you, creating an experience that feels genuine and deeply connecting. But beneath that softness is the same intention to gain control. They create this illusion of care and understanding to deepen your emotional dependence. They create this intensity deliberately because they need you to get addicted to their attention. They need you to crave the connection they will later on withhold. They create the intensity because once they know you are attached, they will begin to pull away. The person they were in the beginning will start to vanish. But by then, you will be so desperate to get that connection back, you will do anything to earn it. That's how they trap you, by creating a bond that feels real but is actually a full performance. Number 2, they slowly turn sex into a measurement of your value. Once you are emotionally invested into the narcissist, they start shifting the dynamic. Suddenly, sex becomes a measuring stick for your worth. If they are distant or cold, it is your fault somehow. If they are unhappy, it is because you aren't pleasing them enough. They won't say it outright because they're covert, but they will leave breadcrumbs that slowly tear you apart. If they are not getting an erection, for example, they will imply it's because you are too nagging or that you made a certain face they did not like. If they avoid intimacy coming close to you, they will suggest it's because you smell, even if you are drowning in deodorant. They make faces that show disgust, eyes darting away, or they grimace like they can't wait for it to get over. Their body language screams rejection. The sensuality they once displayed, completely gone. They become cold, robotic, and totally dismissive. There is no tenderness, no patience. The act becomes something to endure rather than share. They treat it as a chore, something they want done as quickly as possible. And you are left feeling humiliated, confused, and deeply ashamed of yourself. When you confront them, they act oblivious. What do you mean? You're being too sensitive. But the message has already landed in your subconscious. You start questioning yourself, your appearance, for example, your desirability, ultimately your worth. It's not just rejection, it is torture. A slow, deliberate way to erode your confidence and make you feel like a burden. It is emotional abuse, but in the most intimate, private space. These comments seem small, but they leave deep marks. You begin to believe that your value in the relationship is tied to your ability to satisfy them. You start performing intimacy, trying harder to earn their affection every day. You believe that if you are better, more adventurous, more available, more accepting, more sexy, then maybe they will love you like they did in the beginning. But that approval, my dear survivor, never comes, because it was never about your performance. It was about setting a standard you could never meet, so you would keep trying. And the more you try, the more they control you. Number 3, they start breaking down your personality through shame and constant criticism. Over time, they introduce subtle but deeply cutting criticisms. They may joke about your body, compare you to other people, and suggest that your sex drive is too low. But it does not stop there. They may start pushing boundaries invisibly, bringing up uncomfortable fantasies like wanting to add more people into your sexual experiences, something you may not be okay with. When you hesitate or express discomfort, they dismiss it as you being boring or close-minded, which is why I said invisibly. They may even use humor as a weapon. I've seen that. They'll call you degrading sexual names and reduce you to nothing more than an object. What starts off as teasing soon becomes humiliation, masked as a joke. They create a dynamic where your value is deeply tied to how far you're willing to go to please them, even if it crosses your boundaries. And when you resist, they frame your resistance as the problem. As time passes, you stop feeling like a partner and start feeling like a toy, used, numb, and disconnected. You feel like you are there to meet their fantasies, but your own needs, desires, and boundaries do not matter. The sensuality that once existed disappears, replaced by cold mechanical acts where you are left feeling degraded and empty because they just rub their body against you and then leave you there after the act. The shame that comes from that creeps in slowly, but it's very powerful. You begin to believe that you are the problem, that you are too self-conscious, that you need to change somehow. I mean, they should be the one thinking that. They do not just shame you for how you act or look. They shame you for having needs and desires. They make you feel like your very nature is flawed somehow. Over time, this erodes your confidence and makes you more dependent on their approval than anything else. They make themselves the judge of your worth. Can you believe that? And you start seeking validation from the same person who destroys you every single day. Number 4, they reframe your sexual needs as selfish desires. If you express needs like wanting more emotional closeness or needing more time to feel safe, they flip the narrative. Suddenly, you are too demanding, you are too needy, or overly sexual. They accuse you of always wanting something or never being satisfied, projection, and yet they withhold sex most of the time, leaving you desperate for even a hint of intimacy. You find yourself in a place where you are literally begging for crumbs of affection. When they do agree to be intimate, it happens strictly on their terms. And even then, the experience feels hollow and totally mechanical, forced. The problem becomes bigger when all of this creates a twisted, painful bond called a sexual trauma bond. As detached and soulless as the act is, it becomes the only time you feel any connection to the narcissist. You could be dying emotionally, but you crave those moments, no matter how fleeting or painful, and that makes you feel like you're going crazy. Because in those rare moments, cold interactions, it feels like the only space where they are present, at least, where they acknowledge you, even if it is through empty touch. You feel guilty for having such feelings. And slowly, you stop expressing them. You stop asking for connection. You stop saying what you want because you are afraid of being labeled as difficult, hypersexual, or ungrateful. And that is exactly where they want you: silent, suppressed, disconnected from your own body. They do not want to meet your needs. They want to erase them. That's the thing. The less you ask for, the easier you are to torture. And soon you do not even recognize what you want. It all becomes convoluted. You learn to expect less, to desire less, to need less. Because every time you ask for something, it feels like a betrayal, like you are doing something terribly wrong. Number 5, they rewrite the whole narrative to get away with extreme yet hidden sexual abuse they put you through. If you start to heal, if you start finding joy in intimacy, let's say, reclaiming your pleasure, or even just feeling more confident in yourself, they twist it against you. They start using adult content as a weapon, comparing you to unrealistic standards, subtly suggesting you are not somehow enough. They will mention how confident or adventurous others are, planting seeds of doubt about your desirability. They bring up fantasies inspired by the content they consume all the time. You know what I'm talking about, implying you fall short of their deal. If you hesitate, they shame you, saying things like, why can't you be more like so-and-so? Why can't you be open-minded? Others don't have an issue with this. They make you feel like you are prudish or not even enough for them. If you somehow express discomfort, they will dismiss it as insecurity, framing you as the biggest problem in the room. They will call you by names derived from explicit content, reducing you to an object. They blur the line between reality and fantasy because their life is a living fantasy. They make you feel inadequate for not matching what they see on a screen. Over time, you start feeling like you are that, you become that, because all the time you're trying to meet their impossible standards just to keep their interest. But it's not about your pleasure or connection. It is about their evil agenda. When you are insecure, they have power over you. But when you start reclaiming yourself, that power crumbles. So they punish you. How? By withholding affection, using comparisons to break you down, making you feel like your confidence is a big threat to the relationship, therefore it should be erased. The message is clear. Stay insecure, stay controllable. That is the name of the game. I'm beyond grateful to have worked with so many survivors of this kind of sexual abuse. When they come to me, they're not even sure if what they experienced was sexual abuse because they say things like, he never hit me, he never forced himself on me, she was never violent to me. Yeah, there were ups and downs, but we had fun as well. Why do you think it was abusive or it was sexual abuse? Because calling it sexual abuse is a big thing. When you say that, I'm forced to think that all of it was a lie. It takes so much time for me to help them understand that they were stabbed by 1,000 knives. The problem is those knives were invisible, that they were trapped in a room filled with odorless gas that was poisonous. It killed a part of them. It's just that they have not made that connection yet between their pain and what was done to them. Have you experienced covert narcissistic sexual abuse? If yes, drop your answers in the comments below. Who knows, you may end up helping a lot of survivors through sharing your experiences. With that, let's bring this episode to an end. Thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you in the next one. Until then, as always, let the healing begin and continue.